Cool. Okay, ready? Awesome. Well, I'm Brittany Jones, and I'm one of the career advisors in the Career Center, and today I'm going to be talking about transferable skills. So, Isaac, have you heard of transferable skills before? Heard the term?
Yes.
Yes. Great. So basically, how would you describe a transferable skill?
I would say skills that we learn here and, under the roof of the university that we can take with us to the job market and they're useful to us.
Yeah, useful skills you can take into the job market with you, and specifically we're going to be highlighting the leadership experience that you have gained from your on-campus involvement today. So before I launch too much into transferable skills, just to touch on some things that the Career Center offers: one-on-one advising. So depending on your major or classification level, you'll have an advisor assigned to you that you can come meet with, discuss any kind of career topic with. We also offer assessments that you can kind of test your career personality, what are your career values, get a list of career paths that might work for you. If you're kind of unsure of the path you're on, do resume reviews, mock interviews, presentations, career fairs. So we're all over campus and definitely a resource that you should be taking advantage of. So talking about transferable skills, these are just a few definitions that I pretty much plagiarized off the internet. So when you Google transferable skills, this is what comes up. Skills that are developed in one situation, which can be transferred to another. Versatile skills that you can make use of in a number of different roles. Functional abilities, so if you hear the word functional, there's also functional style of resumes that you can use that highlight your skills. And then interdisciplinary abilities, so it can be involved in several different areas. And you'll also hear transferable skills referred to as soft skills. So if you see either of those words, that's what they're talking about. And I have that worksheet there. You don't have to take time to fill it out, but you can just take it with you and look over it. So it has a list of transferable skills on there. And a lot of people, especially if you don't have a lot of actual work experience and you just have a lot of campus involvement, some students are concerned that they don't have enough to put on their resume. But you'll see looking at this worksheet that really a lot of the skills that are listed on there, such as delegating, planning, motivating people, multitasking, things like that, are all things that you've probably gotten experience with through your involvement on campus and are things that you should be highlighting to employers. So here's another list of transferable skills: team building, being detail-oriented, adapting to situations, solving problems, meeting deadlines, all these types of things. It really doesn't matter what job you're in. If you're an engineer, you still have to meet deadlines. If you're a career advisor, you have to meet deadlines. You get paid a lot less, but it's the same types of skills that you're taking in with you. And then skills that employers actually want. So this data is taken from the National Association of Colleges and Employers, also known as NACE. And so they do a survey every year. So this was the last year's survey, 2014, I guess, for the outlook of what 2015 would look like. So employers were asked which attributes they look for on a candidate's resume. Number one was leadership experience. So if you're applying for a job, you give them your resume, that's the first thing that they're wanting to look for. Second, ability to work in a team. Third, written communication, problem solving, strong work ethic, analytical skills, technical skills, verbal communication, and initiative. So all of these would qualify as transferable skills that you can utilize in student organizations, in employment, and from your classwork. Basically any area of your life is where they can be developed and highlighted to employers, because this is the number one thing that they're looking for college graduates. And then it just kind of goes to show over here the scale of influence that things have. So it shows, you can kind of see having held a leadership position is the number one. It's weighted as having the most influence as far as if they're going to hire you. And then down there too, like studying abroad apparently isn't as important to the employers as those leadership positions. So when employers are forced to choose between two qualified candidates, equally qualified, they're going to choose the person with the most leadership skills. An academic major and high GPA, we're also kind of in the middle there. So sometimes you'll hear like, oh, well, your GPA doesn't matter as much as long as you're involved. It still is going to carry some weight. So you want to make sure you have a good balance between academics and leadership involvement. So some ways that you can demonstrate the skills that you have learned through your student organization involvement would be through LinkedIn. So there's a skills section on LinkedIn. I just took a screenshot of what mine looks like. So social networking, leadership, social media, public speaking, those are all skills that you can utilize in various different career paths. And so those are the types of things you should be listing on there. And then requesting endorsements from professors and coworkers. Basically, you'll see their little picture will just show up that they have endorsed you for one of those skills. So if you can build up those numbers, that would obviously be great. And usually I found the best way to get endorsements is just to give other people endorsements. So if you see someone, you endorse them for a couple things, they're like, oh, cool, and then they want to go to your page and endorse you for a few things. So that's something I've been recently working on building because I had like 2 endorsements. Now that I'm in the Career Center and I tell students to get endorsements, I figured mine should probably get a little bit fuller. So that's just one way to kind of build that up, because if you list your LinkedIn on your resume, which is encouraged, then that would lead them here to get an idea of what your skills are. So talking about LinkedIn as well, they put out a list of the 10 most overused buzzwords. So if you're making a resume, you're highlighting your skills, the thing that I like to mention a lot is just be as unique to you as possible. If it's describing just you, then that's great. If it's describing virtually any UNT student who's also in your major and also in your student organization, you know, that's not going to be as helpful. So it's similar to like putting Microsoft Word on your resume. Like, that's not going to really hurt you that much, but is it really impressing anybody? Probably not that much. So if you use words like motivated, passionate, creative, driven, responsible, strategic, track record, things like that are all just really overused now, so they don't really have that wow factor that they may have used to have had. So pretty much LinkedIn did their research, and the most overused words across the world in people's profiles are those 10 right there. So I'm assuming since you were over in College of Business, you've heard like brand statements and all that before,
Yeah.
instead of the objective. So I'll just kind of use an example. This first one here uses all 10 of those words. So passionate and driven sales expert with a proven track record for developing creative solutions and challenges. Responsible individual with extensive experience leading group projects. Strategic planner who possesses strong organizational skills and is motivated by team success. It sounds pretty professional, sounds pretty nice, but it uses all 10 of those buzzwords that everyone else is probably going to be putting into their statements as well. It might sound a little different, but it's all going to sound the same when someone's read 30 of them, and they all use the same 10 words. So those bottom 2 are just examples that still sound just as professional, touch on some similar things, but you won't find a single one of those buzzwords in there. So it's just a matter of going that extra step and making sure that you are thinking of things that the average student isn't going to just throw in and is making you actually stand out. So that's the gist of that. And on your resume, this is where that professional profile would go. So you have your heading, and then it's the first thing at the top. It's really going to reel them in. The example I gave a student today was, you know, your resume is just a list of things. If I'm a UNT student with a pretty good GPA, I list my major, you know, someone else in my major who has a decent GPA is going to look exactly the same as me. If I've had a couple jobs and I've been involved in a few student organizations, you know, it can't really look that different for somebody else who's also been involved and also worked at a restaurant. It might not be the same one, but the skills that you're learning are pretty similar. So this is really the main area on your resume that you can stand out and be unique, and no one's going to write the exact same 4 sentences as you right there. So if it comes down between 2 very similar candidates who both go to UNT, both have the same major, both involved in a couple student groups, it might come down to this paragraph that sets you apart. And then on your resume as well, you should have some type of leadership and involvement category. And so I've just kind of included several different types on here as an example. So you would list most current first, of course, all the way down to the oldest. If you're just a part of a club, you can go ahead and list it from when you started to when you ended. This Phi Kappa Phi is an academic honor society, so they usually use the term inducted. So it's important to use appropriate jargon when you're talking about the organization you're involved with. And so then you can see also if you have a leadership role within that organization, you can list it at the bottom there in italics with the date of that role. There's a lot of ways of setting this up, so this is just one example. And then again with the jargon, so Phi Kappa Phi, Zeta Tau Alpha, they sound pretty similar. They're both Greek letter type of organizations. However, one's the academic one, so you can use the term inducted, and then the sorority, they use the term initiated, so making sure you include those types of things. That's a common mistake I see a lot of times is with the Greek organizations. They'll just put like October 2013 to present or something, but it's a life commitment. So that's one of my biggest pet peeves is when I see that on there. And then the two types of resumes to consider. If you're really wanting to highlight your transferable skills, I would recommend the functional resume, which is the one on the left under the word functional. So instead of listing like on the right, your experience underneath the job, you instead list your jobs with nothing under it, and then you just kind of list your experiences based on the skill that they relate to. So you can just see it's the exact same information, it could be the exact same bullet points, it's all worded the same. It's just a matter of structuring or organizing it to where your skills are more prevalent. So that's something to consider. And then this is just an example of a student's resume that I took a screenshot of to kind of show you an example of what that would look like. So she's got her employment on there. She worked for an optical eye doctor type place for a few months there, but that's not really, a big selling point. She wants to highlight her skills. So her skills were creative thinking, writing, and relationship building, and then she has bullets that talk about all of those. And some of them come from working at the eye doctor, but a lot of it's from student organizations. I think she was in NGTV, different things like that on campus that she's able to put under the writing, relationship building, things like that. And so when you're writing those bullet points, the other important thing to do is make them as comprehensive as possible. So this is another really big thing I see. Students really will downplay their student organization involvement. You'll have a couple of good jobs, maybe even an internship that relates to your field, and so your resume is kind of filled up with that. And then underneath, president of, the investment group or whatever, it's just like, oh, organized group meetings, and that's all it really says. But you want to talk about how often you organize those meetings, how many people were there, how often did they happen, what happened because of these meetings. You want to be as specific as possible for every bullet point on your resume. So definitely get as specific as possible. Utilize the SOAR method, statement of action, occurrence, amount, and then the results. And you'll have the most comprehensive bullet, and then your student organization experience is highlighted to its full capacity. And it's not just a little 2-word bullet about attending meetings or something like that. So I think that is pretty much the gist of highlighting your transferable skills. So your resume and LinkedIn kind of goes over what they are, some buzzwords that you kind of want to try to avoid. And unless you have any questions,